Hi, everyone. Welcome to Campfire from Retail Toolkit. We're really happy that you're here. Today, our guest is Ray Kennedy. He's the marketing director from David's World Cycle in Florida, and we're really, really honored to have him here. And our host for Campfire is the Retail Toolkit General Manager, Dan Kowalski, and I'll turn it over to him. Dan?
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Ray. Welcome to Campfire.
Thanks for having me.
We have called upon your big brain today to join us around the digital campfire to talk a little bit about something that you're really well versed in, digital marketing techniques. Give us a quick snapshot of your role at David's and what brought you to David's and what you've been up to in the industry.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dan. Jason, thank you guys. So I started in the industry in 2010, about a decade ago, with Penn Cycle up in Minnesota. Worked on the sales floor at Penn Cycle for around 5 years. In between Penn Cycle and diving into the marketing side of the bike industry, I worked at the Trek store of Omaha in Nebraska, also on the retail side, sales side on the floor. Worked with Ryan Atkinson at Harvest Retail Marketing, and that's where I started helping bike shops with marketing. And from there, transitioned out to Colorado, where I worked at Smart Etailing, helping retailers with their websites and marketing in general. And fast forward to today, I now work with David's World Cycle in the Central Florida area. Recently opened a shop in Jacksonville Beach, so a bit north of Central Florida now as well. But I help David's World Cycle with all their marketing, everything from the website, davidsworld.com, to their email strategy, print and in-store strategy as well, and really anything that has to do with marketing or speaking to our customers. So I'm happy to work with David and Yvette there. We have a good time. And yeah, it's been good to me the last year.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Yeah, you've definitely been able to surround yourself with talented people in the industry for sure. And thanks again for sharing, not just with Jason and I, but really the goal here is to inspire, and share best practices and success stories on your experience, what you see that's working, what's not worked, and kind of to stay ahead of the curve on where things are going. And certainly, it would be remiss to not mention that we're in somewhat of a challenging, awkward, unprecedented time. There's these adjectives that are being floated. Specialty retail, from the data we're seeing, hasn't been hit as hard as many industries, specialty outdoor specifically, to clarify. So that's been good. Certainly, it's kind of early days yet, but we wanted to kick off this series with loyalty, because it's this thing that maybe means something different to whomever you ask. We at Retail Toolkit feel it's central to understanding who your best customers are, and if you understood who they are, you'd be able to ideally model and find more of them, because we all understand the costs associated with finding new customers, right? You can speak at length of different strategies and different recipes on ad spend, and you have to spend a lot of money to get people to walk through that door. But that's really, I think, times like this where they are perceived to be challenging. Human nature is taking us as consumers back to brands and retailers that we trust, right? When we hunker down, the shiny toys kind of all kind of go away for a little bit, and we want to focus on just brands and experiences that we that we know and trust. And so for a large part, I think that that's what loyalty is, and how you deliver those messages and how you can speak one-to-one to not only your best customers, but in theory, all your customers, to groom them to be best customers. So, Ray, I wanted to obviously get your thoughts on some of these comments, and maybe we'll start by saying, fact check me because of your diverse experience. So, I kind of explain the last 10 years of digital marketing techniques this way to people who are trying to get caught up. There was this V1 generation where you as a marketer did everything you could to get as many email addresses as you could, right? And you put them in a container, and then you would do these blasts out, and you kind of, played the numbers a little bit and saw what stuck. And that actually worked, pretty well for a while. Then that started to not work as much. And again, you can reference kind of the metrics that you track to know quantifiably if things work or not. V2, or the evolution to that, then is a more personalized, yet back-end automated way to send out those maybe just-in-time or real-time messages. And still today, we see a very high open rate with leveraging that technique. And it seems like, today the market expectation from the consumer's point of view is that they're really looking for one-to-one, and that is knowing a little bit about me, only sending things that I'll absolutely like, challenging me a little bit based on the things I do like, but having that one-to-one communication and as close of a relationship as you can have to the consumer. So fact check me. That's kind of that's how I break down some digital marketing communication techniques over, say, the last decade. Am I off? Would you add anything? And what's your experience?
I think that's spot on. I think it's spot on, Dan. The progression, we're definitely seeing that progression, especially the past couple of years to, yes, more personalized marketing, being able to plug in somebody's name, when you send an email into the header, being able to personalize it based on what style of bike they bought. If they bought a mountain bike, putting a mountain bike photo in the header image, things like that for sure are important. One thing that I think is, important to note on that as well is, say you sell a mountain bike to a guest today. Everything that you send that guest doesn't necessarily have to be mountain bike related, between now and the next 2 years of emails either, which I think is sometimes an oversight by some people. And it's something we've experimented with as well. Who's to say that mountain biker might not be interested in buying a road bike next year? There is a fine line between hyper segmented marketing and sending everything, to an assumed, segment based on their interest, and being able to sell them on other interests as well, like the road bike, mountain bike example. But yes, we've seen huge success with, if we'll call them segmented emails. We've seen, 2 or 3-fold increases in open rates and engagement rates across the board, just by sending, transactional emails as well. A guest who buys a bike today is an example, again, sending them a thank you email tomorrow, it sees a much higher open rate than, sending our monthly newsletter. But at the same time, there's definitely a place, I think, for both of those types of emails or communications.
They serve different purposes. Yeah. So do you have enough experience yet in the frequency? I like where you're going. Like, so we don't want to put, the consumer in too tight a box, right, to miss other opportunities. So is that like an A/B test, or is there kind of some sort of frequency, or how do you think about how to play with that? And moreover, if we don't have the tools, because like this is a working experiment, and I think any marketer that would tell you that they have the answer is just silly, because things are happening too fast, right? The consumer's expectations are always moving, so that target is always moving. So maybe a better question to that is, what tools or what data insights do you leverage today to make your best guess, or is there an opportunity for more data or insights that would help you make those decisions to understand what the frequency and mix should be?
We'll pretend to know the answers, but the answers will change tomorrow. To your point, Dan, and more. I think more data is always important. You can always use more data that you don't have and that we can't get in many cases. But just to touch on one example, looking at emails that we send to bike buyers. If we run A/B tests now on a monthly basis and make tweaks accordingly in our bike buyer transactional emails. So we send an email to a guest who buys a bike the day after they buy that bike as more of a thank you. You get a receipt with your purchase, and it's signed by the salesperson who helped you. So it is personalized, and I think probably touch on that later as well on what does loyalty mean? How do you establish trust? That little things like that, including the salesperson's name in an email like that is huge. But we'll send one the day after. We'll send one, I believe, 2 weeks after the purchase, reminding them about programs that we have, different policies around, our flat free program, warranty programs. We send another email 1 month after the purchase, 30 days after, that has a coupon to bring them back in the store in case they forgot something when they bought their bike. And I think there's 10 different emails in that segment for bike buyers. But the point is, using that as an example, we do an A/B test on a monthly basis. They're looking at changes to the subject line, and also looking at changes to the actual emails themselves. And to make it simple, we look at it through two different lenses. There's, all of its email engagement, but there's one side where we look at the open rates, which is typically dictated by the subject line and the teaser text. And then second, we look at the actual click-throughs in the email itself. And if you change both those things at the same time, you're not able to know what's driving more engagement, more clicks, or what's driving more opens necessarily. So we change one thing at a time every month, and this month we change the subject lines and the teaser text. So we'll track, okay, did twice as many people open this email because we changed one word in the subject line. If so, that's a win. We're going to keep that subject line how it is. Sometimes the metrics might go down, the open rate goes down, and we resort back to the last subject line. But keeping an eye on that on a monthly basis is big for us. Looking at engagement is big. And then, beyond that, kind of the third tier is redemptions in the store. How many people are actually coming into the store when they see this email? How many people are buying something on the website, or all the above, and really that's the ultimate goal. You can have high engagement, you can have quote unquote successful emails or campaigns, but guests aren't coming to the store. I'm not going to say what's the point, because there's certainly some cases, I think, Dan, where you don't need to bring the guests in the store. It's just establishing trust, sending brand emails. But yeah, that third thing would certainly be tracking, what do those coupons look like when they come into the store. So yeah, I guess to sum that up, what do we track? We look at open rates, how many people open the emails. We look at engagement within the emails, how many people click through. to the website. And then third, we look at the coupons. And, coupons, three things. It's how many coupons are redeemed, what's the margin on those coupons, and what's the top line revenue. And all three of those are huge. If profit margin is lower, we'll meet with the teams and find a way to either change the coupons, make them more effective, raising the minimum purchase price maybe, or maybe it's just a simple change in wording at the store level and creating more value for the guest for a light set, for example, that's rechargeable rather than a light set that is run by batteries. Small tweaks like that can increase the profit margin on a coupon twofold, as many people on the call know, or many people on the webinar know. But yeah, those are the three things.
That's excellent insight, Ray. Thanks so much. I wanted just to touch on a few things because that last 3-5 minutes of insight there was really impactful, and I want to try to unpack a little bit of it. Some key points I heard is thinking about the customer journey post-purchase, right? So you have methodically thought about how you want and when you want to interact with post-purchase, and you've set up the automated campaigns based on those triggers, so they get the right message at the right time in the journey. And that's something, correct me if I'm wrong, that once that's implemented, you're not hand coding this every day, right? Saying, okay, well, I got to email these 15 customers that bought a bike last week, right? That's not how it works. This is something that you have thought about, planned for the communication outreach strategy, post-purchased, programmatically made it, and you let it run and successful for you. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I'd say that's 100% accurate, Dan. It's awesome. Once they're set up, it's hands off for the most part, outside of maybe an hour a month of looking at the data, making sure the coupons aren't $20 no minimum coupon isn't being redeemed for $20 10 times in a row. Things like that we'll check, but for the most part, it's hands off once those are set up.
That was not really super fair because I knew the answer to your question, but I wanted you to articulate that only because I want the viewers who have implemented some of the modern digital techniques like you have, and you're using them with success. A lot of times, I think people hear somebody say, "This is what I do," and they, because they don't understand the mechanics, they just think it's all the blockers, it costs too much, it takes too much time, I don't know how to. And again, using your words, I heard you say that once it's done, it's a very, very small support tax for you to run a pretty large, successful operation. So I just wanted thank you for sharing that, and that was really more to share with the audience that these techniques are approachable, they're not intimidating, and they're just the requirement that the consumer needs to have a healthy relationship, i.e. loyalty to your brand.
Ray, you said an hour a month, and are you the only one that works on the email marketing strategy for David's World, or you're the only one building emails and sending? Is that right?
That's right. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you said about an hour a month of maintenance, presumably more than that for setting things up. But, can you give me a round number of about how many emails David's World sends every month?
Every month we roughly, as far as automated emails are concerned, we likely send in the ballpark of 20,000 emails, across all segments. So whether it be a bike buyer, whether it be, service customer, that'd be a rough range. And then that'd be only segmented emails. Newsletters would be aside from that.
Sure. Yeah. And so we're talking about the ROI on that hour you spend every month. 1 hour equals 20,000 automated, personalized, targeted emails that are actionable, that feels really powerful to me. I mean, that's as much of an advertisement for a modern email marketing strategy as anything I've ever heard. So
and we can get into the numbers in a little bit too on just redemptions as well, but it's that hour per month after they're set up is, to your point, Jason, is exponentially valuable. That's the right term for it.
And I think that's a natural maybe segue to getting to closer to that third version, right? That one-to-one version of communication through loyalty platforms. And the natural progression of this conversation is, email is a part of it. It's important. And we think methodically about the customer journey. And so we connect with the customer post-transaction at the right time with the right message. And we do that with low support tax, yet a high frequency of connectivity and engagement. And, nirvana here would be to take that all the way to tracking ROI. And Ray, you specifically have experience with launching an updated version of a rewards program at David's World that I know you've got some anecdotal success with in the real short term. But we share that same aligned vision to being able to, as a data platform, we want to make sure we're understanding the complete customer journey, and is the money we're spending over here translating into real profit dollars. So, Ray, what are some of the other metrics that you're tracking, and or just talk broadly about your experience with loyalty and what you're seeing in the marketplace, what's resonating with consumers, and what's working for you at David's? Sure, Dan.
Trying to think of where we want to start with this. There's, on our end, there really are, or first at its core, I think loyalty is, defined for us. Loyalty is, in one word, it's trust. Trust with the consumer. Whether it's establishing trust at that point of sale or sustaining that trust, it all comes back to that for us. Starting off on that, having a strong belief in the brand or brands that you sell at your store, and a strong belief or consistent belief, I think is a better word for it, in the vision of the manager and or the owner at your business. Those are the two pieces where really loyalty starts, for us at least. Knowing, in our case, what would David do if the guest was, working with him in the store as the owner of the stores, and ensuring that every team member is aligned on that is huge. Having, a strong belief in the brands that you stock, in our case, Catchreich, Trek, and Salsa would be our three main, bike brands, really, investing in the informational piece of that, and, knowing those brands and models like the back of your hand. That's where all of it starts. That's the foundation. Everything follows from that. If you're able to, sell that you work at as a team member or an employee, if we'll call them that, and also if you believe in what you sell. But, looking on our end, what does that translate into on the execution side? We've talked a lot about the digital side, which is huge. That's say 80% of our focus in terms of touch points for our guests. But there's so much more to it as well that, I think is important to touch on. There's the marketing side, which would be loyalty programs, which we'll get into, I'm sure, a lot more in a few minutes. But there's also things that we do outside of digital marketing. One of those examples would be sending postcards to people who buy bikes at the store. We printed out postcards that literally just say thank you for your bike purchase at David's World Cycle. It has a blank section on the back where the team member can write a quick note. Hey, thanks so much for coming by, Tom. Thanks for your bike purchase last week. Let us know if you need anything. We have stamps at the store. They send them on a weekly basis, each store. And small gestures like that, they don't have coupons on them. They're not trackable, but things like that are equally as important, in my opinion, as those trackable campaigns and digital kind of, feature, marketing campaigns. Beyond that, there's things that are free as well that, you don't have to go to the store, print postcards, pay for postage, things like, walking a guest out to their car when they buy a bike, showing them how to load their bike on the bike rack or load into the back of their car. Maybe you show them how to work the quick release skewer on the front, take off their wheel to fit it in the car. Simple things like that are invaluable. And I think things that, we forget sometimes. If we, maybe we do that for half of our guests coming into the stores. If we did that for every guest, that's something that's free. We don't have to pay anything for it, and it's a huge piece of the loyalty puzzle. But yeah, I lost my train of thought. What was the question again, Dan?
So this is perfect, right? Guest experience is a component of loyalty. It's not just the digital mechanics, right? The zeros and the ones, flipping magic levers. Totally agree. And I want to use that to segue to what I call the experience economy. Let's dial this back 30 days, right? Kind of pre hyper aware economic and health scenario that we're in today. Connected commerce was something that people like you and I think about, and how we can deliver the best experience to drive loyalty at every touch point. But I think this term experience is not only it's a broad term, okay, and I think the key to a successful loyalty, we'll call it platform or program, is not solely driven on transactions. Similar to how you're saying level up, loyalty is not 100% driven on digital or its guest experience. It's got all of these variables, and they're all important. And so I'm wondering have you what's your take on that? Have you experimented with, in your loyalty program, giving, say, a reward for something other than buying something, right? And in your business, I'm thinking those things would be test ride, referral, coming to a group ride, maybe double points group ride Saturdays. I don't know, those are the things that I think would be novel. Have you started to experiment with anything like that anecdotally? Do you have any results to share, or what's your take on that?
We haven't experimented with anything beyond beyond in-store credits or gift cards. That's what we use for our key rewards at the moment. I know a couple other stores are starting to experiment with a guest takes a test ride, you give them X amount of loyalty points. In another case, a guest comes on a group ride, a Sunday group ride, and they get points for that, which I think is awesome. That's something that is certainly on our radar to experiment with, but we haven't we haven't done many or any tests on that yet outside of
Sure.
In-store credits. But I will say to a couple of points to that, Dan, the in-store credits alone have worked really well, and I do think that they are simple enough for our teams to engage with. It's simple to train, it's simple to take in at the store, and it's also I think easy for the guests to understand as well. You spend $1, you get 10 points when you shop with us, and we've seen huge success just reminding our guests what their point balances are on a monthly basis. Going back to the loyalty piece, we send an email every month to our rewards members, which happens to be almost every guest. We try and sign every guest up for rewards. They get 10 points per dollar spent. We send them an email end of every month. Hey, you've got 10,000 points. That's redeemable for a $10 in-store gift card. And that's a key there as well. Everything is redeemable in-store only, not on the website. And that's a conversation I think for another day. Our website is hugely valuable to us. We certainly sell bikes online. We sell a good number of things online, and it certainly serves its purpose. But in terms of loyalty, it is huge for us to get that guest back into the store, and that's why both on the reward side to redeem rewards, and on the coupon side, going back to that email that a guest gets 30 days after purchase, those are for the most part all in-store only, which allows us to create more value for the customer, bring them back into the store, ask them how their riding's going the last month or the last year if we haven't seen them in some cases, and that's huge as well to continue that relationship.
Absolutely, and that builds community. That's an opportunity for them to grab and go those high margin items at the checkout when they pop in. Jason, I wanted to include you two here. I know when we were designing what we thought would be a best in class loyalty platform, experiences were a big part of the use cases, and I know we had some data to support that. I don't know if anything was resonating with you as Ray and I were chatting. Did you want to pipe in on anything?
Yeah, there are a lot of really interesting statistics about how loyalty programs affect top line revenue for a store. Outdoor Retailer Magazine published an article last November that had some data from Bain & Company. Existing customers, not necessarily loyalty customers, but existing customers spend 67% more when they come in than a new customer will. So if you can turn that customer into an ongoing customer, you're going to see a lot higher revenue, and loyalty is a big part of that. If you can increase your customer retention, so a 5% increase in customer retention results in a 25% increase in profit, which to me is huge. I mean, that's 5% increase in retention. It doesn't feel like a lot. It probably does to someone like Ray, to try to get that number up. But, the fact that it can result in a quarter more profit for your business is I think huge, and should be a given in terms of prioritizing strategy. And then when your loyalty members refer other customers to your store, those new customers are retained at a 37% higher rate than a new customer coming in or referred some other way. So loyalty customers, not only are they having these amazing experiences, but they're telling people about them. And that's, that's sort of the holy grail of marketing, is word of mouth and turning customers into advocates for your business. And so those stats feel really powerful as a way to outline how setting up a loyalty program can benefit your business.
This is great. What a awesome conversation, guys. Thanks so much for sharing your knowledge and your experiences today. Net, getting new customers is expensive. We don't have to quantify that. That's, we know that. The data tells us that we make more with our best customers. And, really the theme here has been loyalty, and those best customers are looking for meaningful ways to interact with your company and your brands. And the loyalty platforms are the best way to do that. Obviously, as Ray has said, that's not just a single solution, right? There's many pieces a part of that equation, but we are happy to be the delivery mechanism and the engine that powers those programs for some of the best specialty outdoor retailers in the world. And so, in closing, Ray, is there anything else that you can share with us and all of the specialty outdoor retailers that might be joining us today?
Yeah, I think it's a perfect segue, Dan, for a couple of closing notes to share. It's hugely important to focus on those guests that you've already sold on your business, you've sold on your brands, you've sold a bike to, or even just gear to. Looking at our numbers across the board, the vast majority of revenue that we see, top line revenue, is from guests who have purchased something more than once in our stores, made more than one purchase. And the minority there would be those guests who only make one purchase. The value really is in those customers and guests who have shopped with us before. And there's so much value that all of us can tap. I think looking at that defined segment, creating trust is huge. But I think in simple terms, it's if that majority is riding their bike, if they're happy with their bike, they're happy on their bike, they're likely to tell their friends, family to come shop with us. They're likely to ride their bike more, and thus, come into the store more often for service, for other gear to make their riding that much better. And that can be created through, small tweaks. If, a guest doesn't know how to load their bike on their car, maybe they can't get to the trailhead. So, like I said before, walking their bike out to the car, small gesture like that might, be the difference between a customer who rides their bike 20 times this year and rides their bike 2 times this year. Things like, People for Bikes Ride Spot is another program that we've started to adopt lately, because most people who buy a bike are they're not experts. They're looking to ride 5 miles at the most around the neighborhood, and they don't know the common safety measures to take, to ride with a helmet, to ride with lights, or where to ride in general. So, using a platform like RideSpot in conjunction with our email programs as well, and suggesting places to ride, safe places to ride and fun places to ride, is huge as well. And I think, the last thing I had on the list is, on my end, is those customers who leave us 5-star reviews or even 4-star reviews on Google or on Facebook, making sure that you respond to as many of those as you possibly can, thanking them for their business, thanking them for their review. It's definitely also important to respond to those 1-star reviews, if not more important. But, don't forget those customers and guests who leave the awesome reviews, because those, are the majority that are going to come back into our stores and buy another bike next year. So, those small tweaks, you just start writing 5 postcards to bike buyers over the weekend who bought a bike this week, or, sending a check-in email to, 5 guests who bought a bike last week. Simple things like that make all the difference. And, that core customer base that we've already established trust with is so important to stay connected with.
Great insight. Right. You are definitely a trusted advisor. And thank you so much for sharing your wealth of experience in a broad range of digital marketing techniques, but specifically loyalty today. I really appreciate it, and you're always welcome back around the Campfire.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So if you're joining us for the first time today, thank you for watching. And again, you can see past episodes or watch live on every Wednesday at 2 p.m. at retailtoolkit.com/campfire. If you'd like to learn more about our solutions for digital loyalty and email marketing, then we'd love to show you a demo of our software. And you can do that at retailtoolkit.com as well. Thanks for joining us. And on behalf of Dan and everyone else at Retail Toolkit, we really appreciate your time today.